Among many teachings Buddha gave, I'm trying to just give an overview of the Vimalakirti Sutra. As I mentioned yesterday, since this is a sutra on definitive meaning or the absolute meaning, then there are so many language and terminologies related to the absolute truth. So for us beginners, it will be difficult for us to immediately understand this sutra. For instance, that Vimalakirti said to Subhuti that he can take the food without abandoning delusion or without dwelling in the nirvana. And also Vimalakirti told Ananda that since Buddha has attained Vajra body, there's no such thing as illness or degradation. On the other hand, Buddha also said that for us to accumulate merit, we need to offer milk to the Buddha. So in this sutra, Buddha is explaining the highest view and the highest kind of conduct. So these teachings, these talks might confuse the beginners. Not only Vimalakirti Sutra, even in the sutras like Heart Sutra, which talks about emptiness. So we talk about emptiness, we recite the teachings on the emptiness. On the other hand, we also do the usual practices such as prostrations, making lamp offerings, and also making offerings. Not only in Mahayana, even in the Theravada, the Sharvakayana Judaism, when these Theravada monks chant the prayers, they also chant the prayers that explain, that talks about selflessness. So from one aspect, then they also have this practice of accumulating merit, so like as making offerings and giving alms and so on. Although it is difficult for beginners to understand such kind of teachings, this is extremely majestic. This is a pride for Buddhism, especially Mahayana. For instance, at the moment we are chanting the prayer of Pranidhanaraja, prayer good conduct. So the extraordinary characteristic, the unique characteristic of Mahayana is that the basis is emptiness and the path is without characteristics and the result is beyond aspiration. So there's nothing to aspire ultimately. So in Mahayana there's nothing to aspire. We can't aspire for the result. There's no result to be aspired. Even in the sutra, the Heart Sutra, it is said that there is no wisdom, there's no attainment, there's no non-attainment as well. If that is so, then why are we spending so much time in doing aspiration prayers? So I'll explain this according to what the Gujarati person said. The Shantideva, the master Shantideva from Gujarat, who was born in Gujarat. So he said, that in order to pacify suffering, in order to free from sufferings, then we need to have this ignorance of expecting the result, so aspiring for the results. We need to be free from suffering. So we all are changed by suffering, so entangled in suffering. So if we really wish to go beyond suffering, to be free from suffering, then we cannot discard this temporary aspiration, which is ignorance, the ignorance of wishing the ultimate result, enlightenment. So likewise, even in the Pranidhanaraja prayer, there are so many things that cannot really fit into our small head. So it's overwhelming. So for instance, there is the aspiration that I am going to have a glimpse of the infinite past Buddhas that have already passed and gone and passed into Nirvana. Likewise, then there's also the aspiration prayer that I am going to see the infinite Buddhas of this present in one moment or one instant. So something that really cannot fit into our head. Maybe we might be able to see the present Buddhas we can invite, but even the future Buddhas that have not appeared, then we make this aspiration that we are going to see them at this very moment, in one moment or one instant. So on one hand, then we chant the verses such as there's no form, there's no feeling, and so on. And then on the other hand, then we also chant the prayers such as offering flowers and music and incense and so on. So why we have this kind of seemingly paradoxical teachings is that generally in Buddhism and particularly in Mahayana, that in Mahayana there is this basic ground of two truths, the union of two truths. So in the path there is the union of two accumulations. So in the Mahayana they explain that the result as the union of two kayas, the two Buddha bodies. So, for instance, when we are chanting this Brahmanajabet, then we visualize Buddha Shakyamuni in the sky in front of us. So we could do that. We can visualize the Buddha Shakyamuni in front of us because the reason is because the Buddha is not truly existent. Buddha is not inherently existing. So if Buddha was truly existing, then there was no point in inviting Buddha because he had already passed away 2,500 years ago. So in addition to that, as a gesture of being very careful with the practice, then we also visualize Bodhisattva Samantabhadra. So the reason is that the people like us who have dualistic perception has this thinking that Manjushri is special for the wisdom and Avalokiteshvara is special for compassion. So relatively, it's believed that Samantabhadra is specialized in aspirations, and if we make aspiration in front of Samantabhadra, then all the aspirations will be fulfilled. In this way, in the presence of Buddha Shakyamuni and Samantabhadra Bodhisattva, we do the aspiration for all day long, and in the end, the Buddha and Samantabhadra, they dissolve into us, dissolve into emptiness, and this kind of thing is never explained in any of these other teachings or the other religion. So in other religion, the object of prayer is that the God is pure and powerful, but the sentient beings are impure and sinner. That's how they view. So here in our case, that the Samantabhadra Bodhisattva and Buddha Shakyamuni dissolve into us inseparable, like water being poured into another vessel of water. It's not like something being, getting into your stomach, into your belly.
영거야 근데 이게 중심이 때문에 나타 공도 시간 하시는 중주기 따라 pen 가서 제천보다 띵사부 얘기 중심이래.
The reason why we can have this is because of this vast view of the non-duality or the inseparable union. So since we have this kind of profound and vast view, we can do that. For instance, in the Heart Sutra, Buddha said that form is emptiness. And then Buddha did not stop there, and he again said that form is emptiness is form, almost making us confused. So it is. I think it is difficult to understand the view of non-duality or the inseparable union. So the reason why it is difficult to understand non-duality is that we have this strong habitual pattern of dualistic perception, dualistic thinking. So that's why we are not able to unite appearance and emptiness. So we are not able to unite good and bad. So we are not able to unite rejection and acceptance. So the source of that, the cause of that is that we always think that things are truly existing and they are inherently, independently existing. So we always think it, naturally think like that because of our habit. So there are so many numerous reasons for this. So there are many reasons why we don't understand that things are not truly existing. So one reason is population. So there's the effect of population. So for instance, the Bodhi tree which is in front of us, all of us think that it is a tree, it's a Bodhi tree. And that most of you also think that this is tree, this is a tree. So on the other hand, if some part of us think that this is tree and then the others think that it is something different, then it is a totally different case. So here whose mind is not affected by other conditions, causes and conditions like that, getting drunk or affected with the drug, then most of us think that this is tree. So one reason is why one thinks that this is a tree is because everyone believes that this is a tree, and people also say that this is tree. So there's consensus. So another reason is the time. So for instance, this is a tree this year, and then when you return next year, then it is a tree. So 10 years ago this was a tree, and after 10 years it's still a tree. So that's why we think that this tree is truly existing, inherently existing. And sometimes because of the function, how we use the things, then because of that we don't understand that things are not truly existing.
신 월만 중남한 대야서 그래 여러 가지 배주지게 랩되거든. 이게 양 오늘랑 신지 맞고 있는데 제 저렇게.
So for instance, when you feel hot, then we sit underneath under the shade of the tree, and because of that kind of usage, then that also contributes to forgetting that the tree is not truly existing. That's why it is difficult that we are not able to understand that the tree is emptiness and the emptiness is a tree, or the tree is appearing, but at the same time it is empty. But although it is empty, it is appearing. Sometimes it is possible for us ordinary beings to experience some kind of non-duality, the inseparable unity of appearance and emptiness in a most degenerated form. For instance, when you watch a movie, if the movie is it's sad, then you also cry, feel sad and cry. If it is fearful, then you feel you get scared. So if the movie is about feeling angry, then you also get angry. So whatever happens, whatever may be the experience, when you have urge to go to the toilet or need to stop for a meal, then you know that it is not truly existing. In fact, in reality, we need to understand that all things are like the things appearing in the movie. So, however, we are not able to do that. We are not able to understand that fact. So because of our habitual pattern, then the emptiness and the clarity, they get back to back. So that's why the appearance of when you're awake and the appearance in the dream, then it becomes a big difference. So because of that, then you begin to like happiness and hate suffering. In actuality, then for instance, in the dream, if you dream of a poisonous snake inside your room, so in the dream, when you see this snake, then you get scared, and then suddenly if the snake disappears, then you feel relieved from fear. That's what exactly Vimalakirti is trying to tell Subhuti, that the snake did not exist in the dream. So there's nothing to get relieved from the fear of the snakes, because the snake did not exist from the very beginning, because it is a dream, it's illusion.
세상 다다 김매적인 독이 깨셔서 되는 년주가나 되는 집 가르쳐거든. 쌈로 땅땅 저거디 막상 가당에 빼치고는 뒤때문에 되는 저런 여러
So I request you all to listen to the teachings on Vimalakirti Sutra, just as I have given the example, the dream example of the snake. Otherwise, there's a danger of misunderstanding or understanding wrongly. Otherwise, these days, when people teach emptiness, they just teach the first emptiness, the form is emptiness, but they forget the other, the three other emptiness. So when Vimalakirti says that one should not abandon delusion and also not dwell in delusion, then you need to understand that if one does not understand that one should not also dwell in the delusion, then if you don't understand, then it will be a big disaster. So, to continue with it, Manjushri said that he would go to see Vimalakirti relying on the blessings of the Buddha, and so he went to Vimalakirti. So also many other beings like gods and humans and the Gandharvas, a big crowd followed Manjushri to the place where Vimalakirti was. So Vimalakirti also knew that Manjushri with the host of big group was coming because he had clairvoyance. So before they arrived, Vimalakirti blessed his house such that except for his bed, then everything was emptied from the house. So this is really, I think it has the really profound meaning, although I don't know how to explain properly. So Vimalakirti is making preparation to say something. So the throne or the seat is where you get stuck. So you get fixated. Reference, basically. So he is making the preparations to talk on this subject of non-reference. So Manjushri and the retinue arrived at Vimalakirti's house, and Manjushri asked Vimalakirti about his health. So Manjushri asks that how did how did you get sick, and when will you get better? When will you recover from sickness? So the thing in the Pranidhanaraja prayer that as vast as the sky, that sentient beings. So this explanation is also in this section of the Vimalakirti Sutra. So Vimalakirti told Manjushri that until the sickness of the delusion of all beings are pacified, then he would never recover from his sickness. So, and another aspect of his sickness is compassion. So that similar things are mentioned in the many of the Mahayana sutras. So there's a very vast teaching here. So Manjushri asks the Vimalakirti, why is his house empty? And he also asks Vimalakirti, where are your attendants? Where have they gone? So Vimalakirti answered, replied to Manjushri, all the Buddha fields are empty. Manjushri asks Vimalakirti, how is it? How is Buddha field empty? So we need to pay attention to this conversation as well. So the Buddha field is empty of emptiness. So if one thinks that all things are devoid of true existence or empty, then this is view. So in the Mahayana, view is considered bad. It's considered distortion. So when we count the 5 delusions, then there is the desire, anger, ignorance, and there are 5 of them. So one of them is view. So if you have a view, then you are not a Mahayana practitioner. So the Gautama, the Buddha, is the one who has transcended all views. So Vimalakirti gave such kind of answers, so many such answers. And Manjushri asks, where are your attendants? So Vimalakirti says that all the maras and the demons are his attendants. That all the delusions and afflictive emotions are his attendants. So samsara and the maras are the main attendants of bodhisattvas. So in this way, Vimalakirti explains the things in detail. So since it is too vast, I cannot finish explaining everything. You know, in one sense, it's also difficult to explain. For instance, if you have a view of self, then that is a wrong view. In also, and also, even if you have a view of abandoning or discarding the clinging to the self, then that is also a distorted view. So that is the same as what Martyr explained in the Ornament of Clear Religion, that there's no emotion to be pacified, and there's nothing to be attained. There's no wisdom to be attained, or there's no emotion to be pacified. So the reason for beginning, at the beginning, the sutra begins with Vimalakirti getting sick. So that's why so sickness is not truly existing. So there are so many interpretations or explanation on sickness or illness. So the real sickness is the viewing the self, the view of self. So the nirvana and samsara, these are also view. So when this kind of teachings are explained, then we just teach and hear, but in actual practice, then we might get confused that how to practice that way. So there's so many methods to practice that. So it's not that we don't have any method to approach this view, the ultimate view. There's so many infinite views, infinite methods. So there's so many explanations, or the detailed explanation on the methods to approach the. So there's the method and the wisdom, that we need both. So the wisdom without the method will make you sick. So the wisdom that is anointed with the method will not make you sick. It will free you from sickness. So the method that stands, or that is without wisdom, will bind you or will make you sick. So the method which is anointed with wisdom will not make you sick. So what is so that if somebody thinks that all things are empty and without characteristics, without aspiration, if one thinks that there's no samsara and that there's no Buddha field or there's no attainment of Buddha, that just falling into the extreme of emptiness, then that is called the wisdom without method. If one thinks that there is no the physical aspects, the sublime aspects of the Buddha, and there is no activity of the Buddha, then thinking that everything is emptiness, and then it is called the wisdom without method. So the wisdom that is anointed with method is so that is making aspiration for attaining the physical marks of the Buddhas, and also to perfect the activities of the Buddha, and also to be reborn in the Buddha field of the Buddhas. So to make aspiration to attain the sublime marks and signs of the Buddha's body. As you are aspiring for this result, then you also think that these are not truly existent, they are empty in nature. So there is a detailed conversation between Vimalakirti and Manjushri on this subject, on such subject. At that time, Shariputra was also present in there. So Shariputra thought that since there was no seat at all in the throne, then where would the great bodhisattvas sit in the room? So Vimalakirti knew Shariputra's what Shariputra thought with his clairvoyance. And Vimalakirti asked Shariputra that whether he came there for the teachings or to sit on the throne. So the person who and Vimalakirti says that a person who seeks dharma will not even need his or her own body. So for those who seek dharma, then there's so many teachings, the Mahayana, unique Mahayana teachings. So the person who seeks dharma will never look for the skandhas or the aggregates, the 5 aggregates. So I'm sure people can understand that. The person who seeks truth or the dharma will not seek for the 3 realms of samsara, like formless realms and desire realm. These people might understand, but that next one is difficult to ask. So the person who seeks truth or the dharma will not even aspire for Buddhahood.
최랑 넘버 셴바엔 되게 말았어.
That we will not aspire for dharma,
这个贪着无法。
근데 인류랑 넘버 셴바엔 되게 말았어.
will not aspire
那
for
么
the
还有呢，
sangha.
他也不会
Not
去
even-
就是
not-
这个贪着生。
그냥 대나지. 나 뒤준 마상 멤버십 생긴 시야 요래. 금할 시에 거기 근중 빵고기 생각 같은데 남 죽고기 고공 원도 작고기 선상 에세 요래 멤버십.
那么
So the person who seeks the truth or the dharma will not even grasp onto the Four Noble Truths, the truth of suffering, truth of origin of suffering, the truth of the cessation of suffering, and the truth of the path to the cessation of suffering.
정말 신뢰 이런 얘기 말씀.
So the person who seeks truth or the dharma should not even have this intention to know that there is suffering, you are suffering,
빵도야 이런 얘기.
and the person should not have the wish to abandon the origin of suffering.
시원하게 근데 강생을 당연히 또 이기는 민에 같은 게 계속 요래.
那么这个呢，在
So these are actually what Shantideva says in that when real and unreal things are, cease to exist before the subjective mind,
아니 치도 무슨 사제받으면 증거 중에 따와면서 아직 늦어라. 근데 신발 슈트나 근데 되게 매력이 계속 다른 손에 연결해 봐라.
so later on then, as the Sakyapa said that if there's grasping, there's no view. So if you are grasping to anything, to the view, then the path is not complete.
능할 시 근중 빵 고공은도 자 남검고 상승기 밑에서 최 능년 저거 말했어.
And Vimalakirti said that the person who wants to know the suffering, abandon the cause of suffering, and to attain the cessation and to apply the path to cessation suffering, that person does not really want to attain the truth, or is not seeking the truth. So this kind of person, those people who are looking for this, they're just looking for the extremes, elaborations.
왼바 전돈 이렇게 그랬어. 왼바 전돈 이렇게 그랬어. 왼바 쓰면서 왼바 전돈 이렇게 그러면 또 최 전돈 이렇게 말해.
那么
So these people actually seeking the the non-existence.
在追求法。
왼바 쓰지도는 배치 분들이 사실 왼보 공강 공체강 근데 마인벌이 사실 찔렸다. 교현해야 돼. 그래서 돈 교현.
So for instance, actually, to be escape from this the fact, actually, for instance, to go into the solitary place.
능할 때 받자
또-
근중 방어 자생은 근데 삼각관심 밑에서기 서로안에 교현해. 냥대 왼바 왼빈네 냥대 되더라. 인간이 저거 있을 최진이 저거 막
So a person who wishes to be free from samsara and attain nirvana is that seeking nirvana, which is beyond suffering.
逃离轮回到涅槃极处，他们并不是呢是想要这个追求法的。
다 자기 이 주변하기 당보 거라는 땐 육지 탐지 내려져버릴 수 있는가
那么在
So
刚开始的时候
from the very beginning, that Vimalakirti made,
把这个是做这个做意思
blessed that the house was completely empty.
육지 된 생긴데 대사적으로 차갔다 찹사
So the the throne and the cushion or the seat is a place where you can sit and get fixed.
땐바 떼사
So it's where you can fix your mind or fixate your mind. So it's a reference point.
땐바 떼사
这样说呢，我们
So for instance, when you shoot, then there's the target
我们设计的这个法。
어떻게
where you can aim.
빼던 빼진다 제일 비싸다
So
这个可以来用这样的来
then you can use that as an example or the analogy.
김에 잡고서 나다 뒤에봐이나 우리 말을 쓴 거야
So if you have reference point or the point of fixation, then it's not good. So you can't have that.
인지생대야 요 말을 쓴 거야
那么
So there's no alaya or the universal ground, for instance.
말에서는 뒤진 말한 속에다 개와 두 sendiga 개와 주나 근데 개와 침마나 근데 남인 야고된데 양들의 삼성도 그때 이 버루 대이 버루가 가르쳐서 개와 작사적으로 왔다 육지적으로 개와 작사 육지적으로 좀더 댄서 네 군지 거기 삼바들 지나게 해서
So for instance, that thinking that you need to accumulate merit, and so that if you do virtuous things, then you can have good results in the future. So in between, to secure your merit, then you need the ground, the alaya of that. And that, according to Vimalakirti, is the point of fixation. It's a reference. And the Vimalakirti said that Manjushri is a bodhisattva who goes to different places. And he asked that since you visit so many Buddha fields, and in which Buddha field have you seen the most supremely beautiful throne? And Manjushri said in one Buddha field in the eastern direction, then that Buddha field has the best supreme the most supremely beautiful throne. League. So the size of the throne is 68 million miles or leagues.
他就讲的是这个他的这个座椅呢，这有这个多大呢？有呢就是68万由许。哦，真的。
前잡고 대고만 타도 되네.前잡고 tukje 나온 tukje tuk삼.
So when Vimalakirti
신간 비기 되네. tukje tu 하다.前잡고 거랑.
那么
So at that moment Vimalakirti made this aspiration, and then he brought the throne from that Buddha field to Vaishali. 30,000 of such thrones were miraculous. So 32,000 of those thrones were miraculously brought to Vaishali from that Buddha field. So those thrones landed inside the house of Vimalakirti to Vaishali. So and inside the Vimalakirti's house, then still there was a room for many more thrones. So that although that Vimalakirti's house did not become bigger, or the thrones did not become smaller, then all the thrones could fit inside Vimalakirti's house, and still there were spaces for many more thrones. So the bodhisattvas who had attained Bhumi sat on the throne. So when Vimalakirti asked Shariputra to sit on the throne, then Shariputra said he couldn't sit.
微佛说我没办法坐上去。 然后
And Vimalakirti said there is a way out.
这是有这个办法的。
다다 샤초 참나 예비 상계들라 차숨 태셔.
那么
And said Vimalakirti asked Shariputra to do 3 prostrations to the Buddhas in the eastern Buddha field.
这个顶礼三次。
이 차숨 태거나 되게 사람들 때문에 화가 유비기라면 대표가 주나고요.
So he did 3 prostrations, and because of that merit, then Shariputra could sit on the
因
throne.
为这样的一个福德，这个舍利弗呢，就能够做到这个坐这个椅子上。
뭐가 대양 이 다다 양도 시반나지 태거 침묵이 깨차 좀 많이 받아.
That too is a unique
再跟各位这个
unique teachings of Mahayana teaching, unique Mahayana teachings.
초진의 최 탐지 옹진 다음에 거인다시 양 초진의 차숨 태네 저놈 싸마야 동동반이기 된 또네 시간 된 대투보다 그것이야.
So there it explains that from one side, from one angle, that there's a teachings on everything being empty, and from one angle, the teachings on realizing emptiness through accumulation of merit. So I'll continue tomorrow.